My supervisor told me I was the only nurse strong enough to handle difficult patients. What she really meant was, everyone else got protected while I got destroyed. I'm 29 and I work in long-term neurological care. A lot of our patients have severe brain injuries, dementia, or late-stage illnesses. I used to genuinely love this job, not in the fake inspirational way hospitals advertise. I actually cared. I stayed late, picked up extra shifts, learned wound care, learned palliative care, learned how to deal with violent patients without hurting them. Whenever something difficult came up, people called me because I could handle it. That was the problem. Over time, capable became my punishment. Aggressive patient? Give them to me. Family screaming at staff? Send me in. Patient covered in waste? Can you handle room 14 again? There were days I barely sat down for 12 hours. Meanwhile, other nurses hid in supply closets scrolling TikTok. And management knew it. They just didn't care because the work still got done. Then we got a new patient named Darren. Early 50s, traumatic brain injury after a motorcycle crash. Some days he was calm. Other days he screamed nonstop for hours. Not words, just screaming. And once he started, it set off half the hallway. Families complained constantly. Staff hated working near him. So naturally, he became my responsibility. One afternoon, Darren was feeding himself lunch, perfectly fine. Then he dropped the spoon, looked directly at me, and said, "You do it." I told him calmly, "You can still eat on your own." He pushed the tray away and said, "No, you do it." The occupational therapist had specifically warned us not to encourage dependency if he was capable of doing tasks himself. That mattered for recovery. So I tried motivating him. I repositioned the spoon, encouraged him, waited, nothing. He just stared at me. And for the first time in years, my immediate thought was, fine, don't eat then. Not concern, not patience, just exhaustion. That honestly scared me more than anything, because 6 years ago, I would have sat there for an hour helping him through it. Now I was mentally calculating how much paperwork I could finish if I walked away. I ended up feeding him, but afterward I sat in the supply room realizing I felt absolutely nothing. No sympathy, no frustration, nothing. Just numb. That same week, I found out my supervisor had reassigned 2 violent patients from another nurse onto my section. Again, I asked why. She said, "Because you're better under pressure than the others." I said, "So I get punished for being competent?" She laughed like I was joking. I wasn't joking. Then things got worse. One of the newer nurses reported me because I sounded cold during a shift change report. Not rude, not abusive, cold. Meanwhile, this same nurse regularly disappeared for 40 minutes at a time and left other people covering her patients. Management talked to me instead of her, because apparently sounding tired was the bigger issue. Around the same time, I started seeing a therapist because I genuinely thought I was burning out. At first, he helped a lot. He said I was carrying too much responsibility. He said healthcare workers get emotionally overloaded. He said I needed boundaries. It was honestly the first time in years someone seemed more concerned about me than about what I could provide. Then he started getting weird. He'd say things like, "I look forward to our sessions all week." Or, "You're different from most people I meet." At first, I ignored it. Because after dealing with screaming patients and manipulative management all day, basic kindness felt enormous. Then one session, he asked if I'd ever noticed how easy it was for older men to become protective of me. That immediately made me uncomfortable. I laughed awkwardly and changed the subject. He brought it up again later. He said, "You have this way of making people want to take care of you." That line made my skin crawl. A week later, he canceled my next appointment and asked to switch it to a video call. During the call, he told me he thought it was best if he referred me to another therapist because he felt our connection was becoming emotionally complicated for him. I honestly just stared at him. Then he said something that made me feel physically sick. He said, "You have a tendency to create strong emotional attachment in damaged men." Like somehow this was happening because of me. I said, "You're my therapist." He said, "I know, and that's why I'm ending this before boundaries get crossed." Like I was supposed to thank him for stopping himself. That entire week pushed me over the edge. At work, I was treated like a machine. Outside work, I apparently existed as some emotional support fantasy for a therapist twice my age, and somehow everyone kept acting like I should feel grateful they needed me. The breaking point happened during a night shift. Darren started screaming again around 2 a.m. Another nurse walked past his room, looked at me, and said, "He only listens to you." Then she kept walking. I had 6 other patients. One needed medication. One had fallen earlier. One family member was already angry about delayed updates. But somehow, Darren was automatically my problem again. I snapped. Not at Darren. At the staff station. I said, "Why is every difficult person magically assigned to me?" Nobody answered. So I kept going. I said, "You all call me strong because it's easier than admitting you dump everything on me." One nurse rolled her eyes and said, "Wow, sorry people trust you." That sentence honestly made me angrier than anything else. Because that's how exploitation works in healthcare. They call it trust. They call it dedication. They call it compassion. Until your entire personality disappears into other people's needs. My supervisor pulled me into her office the next morning. She said my attitude was becoming concerning. I said, "My workload is concerning." She said, "Healthcare requires sacrifice." I said, "No, you require sacrifice from specific people because you know they won't quit." Complete silence. Then she hit me with the line that finally broke something in me. She said, "You used to care more." I looked directly at her and said, "No, I used to destroy myself more." Update 1. I filed paperwork to reduce my hours. Management is furious. Apparently, I'm letting the team down. Funny how the team only exists when they need something from me. Update 2. I reported the therapist, not because I think he's some criminal mastermind, but because I'm tired of older professionals treating emotional vulnerability like an invitation, especially after he tried framing his feelings like something I caused. Update 3. A few coworkers stopped talking to me after I pushed back about staffing. Others quietly admitted they feel the same way. One nurse literally said, "They dump everything on you so the rest of us can survive." At least she was honest. I still take care of my patients. I still do my job properly. But something changed in me after all this. I realized that people love calling someone compassionate right up until that person starts protecting themselves. Then suddenly they become difficult. I am tired of being rewarded for competence with exhaustion. And I am tired of people confusing access to me with entitlement to me. Maybe healthcare broke me a little. Maybe it broke a lot of us. But I know this now. If a system only works because certain people sacrifice their mental health inside it, then the system is the problem.